So here's what I would like for you to do. I want you to try to solve that equation real quick. We talked about this last week on how to solve these. You got to get the variable by itself. Got to get a square root. I need some paper. Let's go ahead and kind of partially close up the computer. We don't need to right now. All right. So if we are solving this, what do we do?
Put 16 on the other side.
Leave that 16 to the other side by subtracting it. So we'd have x squared equals what? Negative 16. So then to get the x by itself, we have to take the square root of both sides. So what does x equal?
-4.
When I put square root of negative 16 in the calculator, it gives me an error message. And the error message says non-real answer. That's what it says at the top of the calculator. And the negative sign inside is the problem. So we know what the square root of 16 is. What we don't know is that square root of the negative. So I talked to y'all the last time about, let's rewrite this. Since we know what the square root of 16 is, let's rewrite that as negative 1 times 16. And so, what is the square root of the 16? Well, hold, don't put it in the calculator yet. But we know what the square root of 16 is, right? So I'm going to take that on the outside. I'm going to leave that negative 1 underneath. So here's kind of a special deal on that. The square root of negative 1. When you see this in math, you're going to see it as a lowercase letter I. The square root of negative 1. And it's the what? It's an imaginary number. What we mean by that is how when we're going through, we talk about numbers, the number system. We have the natural numbers, which are your counting numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4. Whole numbers, which are your counting numbers and 0. Then you have integers, which are your 0, 1, 2, 3, but also the negatives. Then you have rational numbers, which are your fractions. And then you have real numbers, which could be irrational also. Okay, so that's all under the category of real numbers. What we don't have though yet was the imaginary number. And it doesn't mean that this number doesn't exist. It just means that it's a different kind of number. So don't stress over why it's called imaginary. We're not imagining it. It's a number. It's a part of the system. But anytime you have a negative underneath the square root, you're going to have this letter I. And the reason why is because the square root says, what can you multiply by itself to get that number under there? Well, if you multiply two negatives together, it's going to be positive. Multiply two positives together, it's going to be positive. So there's no way to get this. And so what they did is they allowed for you to have the square root of a negative. We just call it I. So down here, what is this actual answer? I forgot my plus or minus sign. It's plus or minus 4i. So for those of you that are kind of working through that, anytime you're left with a negative under the radical, underneath the square root, you're going to take it out of the square root and just left with this I, and a lowercase I. Right. And so all this is referred to as the imaginary number. So, if I tell you to simplify this, let's try to correction, simplify. Simplify the square root of negative 8. Okay. First off, we know there's going to be an I because of the negative. Okay. The 8, though, is that a perfect square? No. So I think the square root is going to give me a decimal answer. It's going to be 2 point something. So this is where we talked about last week. Just like we did up here where we rewrote negative 16 is negative 1 times 16. We're going to rewrite negative 8. Put that negative 1. But then what can we rewrite 8 as? So there's a perfect square involved. 2 times 4, because 4 is a perfect square. Okay. So what can we now take the square root of? We can take the square root of the 4. That's where the 2 comes from. We can take the square root of the negative 1, because that's I. So it's just a... Yeah. What else do we have left? And it just stays under. So there's officially how you simplify the square root of negative 8. Let's do another one. So we're going to simplify the square root of negative 45. Simplify the square root of negative 45. I know I'm going to take that negative 1. But what are we going to break 45 down into? Yeah, combination there. 9 times 5. Because 9 is a perfect square. Do we need to get the list of perfect squares again? Pick a random number. first 15. I can't remember after that one. All right. So -1 we know is I. We know the square root of 9 is 3. So we take those two, then we know that 5 stays on. So that one simplifies to 3i square root of 5. One more that's kind of simple. What do you do with this one? Almost. Nope, you had it. Just the negative has to be I out there. So square root of negative 36 is just 6i. Okay. Now, for this part, we're not solving equations, so we don't have to worry about making it plus or minus. If we're solving equations and trying to solve for a variable, then you would need a plus or minus 6i. We'll deal with that a little bit later. Tomorrow. All right. So keeping on this part of it. Complex numbers. Complex numbers involve an imaginary number, and they come in this form here. Let's write that right. They come in the form a plus bi, where a and b are just numbers, they're integers. But this is kind of the real part of the complex number, and that's the imaginary part of the complex number. Okay, the b, because it's multiplied with the. And so a couple of things we're going to do with this one. If I give you this number here, negative square root of -9 plus 6. Okay. What the question is going to want you to do is write this expression, the square root of -9 plus 6, write that as a complex number, so in this form. Okay, so the directions, write as a complex number. So it's simplified. So we can simplify the square root of -9 really. What is that?
-3.
Well, it's not -3, it's 3i. Because the negative comes out as an I, and then the 9 square root of that is 3. Okay, now is this in that same form? No, we do need to flip it, so the actual answer is 6 plus 3i. Okay. Square root of -18 plus 7. Square root of -18 plus 7. Rewrite 18 as 9 times 2. Now here's a question I have. Kind of think through. Does that I go right there for this form, complex number form? So first off, we know that the 7 needs to go out front. But where does the I and the square root of 2 go? In other words, does the I come in front of the square root of 2 or after it? For this form, it really should come after it, shouldn't it? Oops, there's the 2 in there. The problem with that, though, is you have to make sure that the I does not end up under your square root symbol. Okay? So it's perfectly okay to do a couple of things. One is put the 3 square root of 2 in parentheses so that you know for a fact that the I is on the outside. That's the most accepted method there. You could leave the I out in front with the 3, but then you would need to make sure you realized that the square root of 2 is part of the B. Okay? So this kind of helps out doing it this way. So this is the way, the best way to go ahead and do that. What kind of questions do you have? We'll do a couple more together. You ready for the assignment? Okay. I think this assignment today is easy enough that if you haven't got it yet, I can talk you through it as you're working through the assignment. So here's your assignment you're going to turn in today. This assignment's a little bit longer than the others are going to be, just because the problem shouldn't take you very long at all. 1 through 9, 11, 13, 15, and 17. It's 2